Walk me home Sunday night. Basically, my Friday. I'm off tomorrow. So I had two really fun things happen today. My friend Sarah came by and said hi. And she always calls me Mrs. Butte, so I knew it was her even before I turned around. And she's the only person who does that. And the fun thing about Sarah, she used to work for my Fed. And I would call her now and then for advice. And she always gave really good advice. And they were all participants in getting Cleo and Spotty fixed up, and their mom. And so I had scheduled, I had arranged with them because I didn't want to. I have very limited transportation. And I had asked them, can I trap her and bring her to your office? You keep her overnight and spay her the next day. And the vet said yes. I don't think regular vets normally do that. But I couldn't get to a fix a feral spay and neuter clinic because I have to pay for the ride. And who wants to take a cat in a vehicle? There's one person I know. But he wants money for it, so obviously. And they talked to the doctor. Sarah talked to the doctor, and the doctor came back and said yes. So I'm like, oh, good. And I said, my concern, though, Sarah, is that, when I get her fixed, what do I do with her? And she's like, what do you mean? I said, she's very, very scared. She won't even let me pet her. And do I just, let her recuperate and then put her outside, or do I try to make her a house cat? And she said, oh, please try to make her a house cat. And I said, okay. And I did. And Cleo was spoiled, rotten house cat. So I saw Sarah today, and I said, do you remember that conversation we had about Cleo? And she said, yeah. I said, I'm going to show you a picture. And I showed her this picture, and Cleo is just lying in bed surrounded by soft blankets, just totally relaxed. It's a wonderful photo. I said, this is how it turned out. And she was laughing, and she said, oh, that's so great, And I gave her a hug, and she went off and did her thing. And this lady was shopping, and she kept looking at me. And she came over, and she said, it's you, isn't it? And I said, what do you mean? She said, you used to shop? I used to work here. I was a cashier. She said, you used to come to my register a lot. And I said, oh, yeah, I remember you. And she said, so how are you? Hi, you're working here now. What's going on? And, I basically gave her the 1 minute testimony. And she was so happy for me. And I just thought that was so neat. And she was just such a nice lady. And I remember she was just... there's a few people in the world, and I hope I can become one of them one day, where, just seeing them, it's just a warm, soothing, refreshing experience. You always feel better walking away from it. And I want to be that person, and I hope God does make me that person. But that's who she is, and I was just really happy for her because she was with a guy, and they seemed very happy, and, so that was good. I don't think, yeah, I did hug her. I asked if I could, and she said yes, and she hugged me. So that was fun. But I got to work early today because the way the schedule has been working, there's a gap, and they are very short-staffed during this gap. And if they see me, they'll ask me to start. So that's what happened today. So I deliberately went in early. When I got up, Spotty was meowing a lot. And what I realized later was his food bowl was low, but that's what he was trying to tell me, but I didn't get that. Maybe I need to get him some of those buttons. He could just say hungry or whatever. It's just meow. Sometimes I'm clueless. I don't know what meow means. But I ended up laying down together with him. And I woke up an hour later. And I'm like, oops, and I still got to work when I had hoped to get to work, but it did cut an hour on my preparation time, so, but I don't regret that because You know, this body's not going to live forever. I'm not going to live forever. And, you know, one of the only regrets I have in my life is that I didn't spend more time with my loved ones. So, you know, if I can do that, I'm going to. And tomorrow I'm off and I plan to relax. I have to do some organizing type stuff tonight, but get some leftovers in the freezer. But, you know, I'm just going to rest because I'm going to be very busy Wednesday getting back my Walkman. So, just being aware, there's a car to my right down about half a block that its lights are on, sitting in somebody's driveway. So work, you know, it went quick. That's what I like about work. You know, you're busy, it goes quick, you know, time to go home. And I got out of there, and my bus was about on time. I'm pretty sure it was an extra board driver because I didn't recognize him. Didn't really, he took the candy, but he was kind of baffled. People who, this is going to sound so arrogant. If they've heard about the candy lady, when I give them the candy, they're like, oh, it's you. And they take it. They like recognize what it is, for lack of a better word. But a driver who doesn't know me or hasn't heard of me, again, very arrogant sounding, is very confused when I try to give him the candy. But he took it, so that was good. And the last driver I had, I believe, was the regular. But I still have some candy left, which is good. And when I was doing the candy up this morning, it was like doing the regenerating thing because I only had enough for like 6 bags and I did 15. So, you can do whatever you want with that information. So I got out and the bus, he was pretty much right on time. And I boarded, and it seemed pretty usual crowd. There's a Cuban lady with a big gap between her teeth, and she likes to dance to her music. She was snapping her fingers, and you know, she had headphones on. And I was listening to my music, and we went around the corner, and a loud bang, and a homeless person had fallen out of their seat. They were very heavily medicated. The driver used the word sleepy, but it wasn't sleepy. It was impaired. They were very, very impaired. And they kept like almost falling out of the seat, even just like hitting the brakes at the stop sign. So the driver had to go really, really slow. And that made him later than usual. Normally, I have about a 20-minute window to catch that last bus. But it was going to be more like 5 or 4 minutes. So there's a cheat stop I can use, which adds another couple minutes. So I did that. And, of course, I'm all by myself. And when the bus came, there's a lady who rides the bus. We're acquainted, and you know, she's also in the animal rescue and stuff like that. So she said that apparently when the bus pulled up at the stop, somebody got on, and she said the bus smelled bad, like homeless people basically, and that it wasn't fit to ride. And my friend said that when someone makes a complaint like that, they have to take the bus out of service and cancel the run. This is the last run of the evening for this bus. And that would have been a very big problem for me and a lot of other people. So basically my friend shouted her down. And the bus left, but it was later than usual. So I probably could have caught it anyways if I'd gone to where I normally do. But when it's like less than 10 minutes, I don't like to take that kind of chance. So, that was fine, you know. It's just, I have to be self-aware. I don't have anything flashy or blingy or slutty, you know. I'm not sending any kind of message. I've got a large tote bag on the arm. The bus drivers find that funny because I said, you know, I kept stuffing this bag, my old bag full of candy, and I kept running out of candy, so I got a bigger bag, and they just find that hysterical. Oh, and I brought the Dollar Tree Lysol. If you ride the bus in Houston and you want to make a real friend of that driver, go buy a can of Dollar Tree Lysol and give it to the driver. The first one, it was a black man about my age, and he almost cried when I gave that can. I mean, forget the candy. He just kept holding this and saying, "You don't know how much I need this." And I'm like, wow. So you can buy cases of this stuff from Dollar Tree. I think they're $1.50 each. And you can get a case of 12, and I believe you can get it delivered. And I'm going to do that. And just start handing that out along with candy now and then. Not every time, but, you know, sometimes. Cigarette smoke. Somebody smoking. It's over there. So, the house directly behind me. That was interesting, I thought. And I gave it to both my drivers, and they both said along the lines of, you know, you don't know how much we need this stuff. And I understand it because I have ridden public transit my whole adult life. I have a very good idea. And I'm not saying this to like inflate myself, because I am a very flawed and imperfect human being. I'm saved by God's grace. That is all. I certainly don't do anything to earn a place in heaven. So, you know, if God gives me a job to do or an assignment or an appointment, I'm going to do it. But that's an honor He's giving me. And I don't get brownie points for doing my job. Luke 17:10 talks about that. So, that Jesus said, you know, when you've done your job, basically, just say, you know, we're unfit servants. It was only our duty, you know. And it is. So I'm not anything special. But you know, I have been told more than once to be a light, that I need to be a light, and I'm gonna do what I can to be a light. And I don't always measure up, but I'm gonna at least, I don't want to embarrass God too much. So and I saw the FedEx guy today. Like I said, I was running late this morning, and he came roaring right up, and he stopped. He was going the other way, and he stopped, and I waved at him, and it was started to get in my bag. And he said, "Oh, you got candy for me?" I said, "Yes, sir." And yeah, I gave it to him, and he took it, so that was fun. And I told him about the snacks on the porch. I'm pretty sure he knows which house it's on. I don't think anybody else in the neighborhood is getting cases of Bible delivered. There's about over 300 houses in the neighborhood, but, you know, I don't think there's a lot of evangelists. I read a statistic somewhere that evangelicals are like 1%. Why, hello. Hi there, handsome. There is a small black cat. Now, weird enough, the other day, the guy across the street was making threats about the black cat. I don't know what he did, but it couldn't have been that bad. To somebody else who he apparently thought was the owner. But there he is. He looks hungry. I guess he forgot that we have a cat door. But, okay, we're gonna give him a pet. And then go in. Hi, sweetheart. Oh, he's got burrs in his fur. Okay. So,